because I was really passionate about understanding people and
played a big role in that. So maybe tell us a little bit more about.
I literally had that aha moment of, wow, this is why feeling of wanting to do something for young people. We're having so many.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Simon Phillips, and this is Leading the Field, the show. We're here every week with people who are pushing the boundaries, people who are looking around them and finding opportunities to make a difference. And I'm really delighted to have a really good friend of mine from the last few years, Helen Rivero, with us today. Helen, it's lovely to see you.
Oh, lovely to see you too, Simon. Super excited about being here too.
So Helen, tell us a little bit of a potted history of how you got here.
Sure, yeah. My background really has been in the world of HR for over 20 years now, which seems like a very long time. And kind of falling into that career really, not really knowing what I wanted to do when I was sort of leaving school. I think left school and decided to do business studies. It was a broad topic, and maybe I would have enjoyed something there. And basically sort of started as an air hostess actually. So I didn't go into HR straight away. I was actually an air stewardess. So of all things, I knew when I was at school I wanted to travel, and started off, thought, right, okay, well, how am I going to travel? I'm going to be an air hostess. And that lasted about 9 months because I realised that it actually wasn't for me, as much as I thought it was about travel. For any of you that start off as an air stewardess, you don't get to see many places. So I kind of came back and thought what I might do. So yeah, fell into the world of HR, working for a friend, and then sort of worked my way through lots of different organisations, and really took an interest in the people side because I was really passionate about understanding people and what HR could do to help individuals, and then really transitioned a bit more into learning and development. And that's where I am working now, because my passion is much more around people's potential, transformational HR, than it is transactional. So that's a little bit about it.
I'm sure you've skipped over whole loads of stuff there just to get us up to date. The Young People Index. Do you want to just introduce that initially, and then we'll track back and find out where it all come from?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Young People Index is an online assessment that really measures an individual's energy for impact. So what do I mean by that? I mean, it measures a young person's energy when they work in teams or groups on projects, in terms of the types of tasks, the types of work that they really enjoy and where their energy is, or where they maybe have lower energy, which is, very, very important for young people, because it's not something that they are aware of when they're at school and going through that sort of educational, process. So the assessment is online, and it produces an online report, young people can look at, and, the insight has been fantastically informative for young people to make decisions about their futures. So that's about the tool.
That point in their lives where young people are learning so much, they're exposing themselves to, an ever-expanding world, new life experiences. Does anything change in the way that they show up in terms of the Young People Index?
Yeah, I mean, every individual profile is, very different, which is really interesting for not only the individual, but, their peer groups and their friendship groups. But I think, when they're going through school, it's not something that they ever refer to, what's your energy when you work in teams? It's not a conversation that ever happens, but is starting to happen now through the Young People Index. And, we do see young people that take the assessment and they're able to take it year upon year, which enables them to look back at their previous reports and insight, and sort of look at any sort of development or progression. And that, again, is very useful for them, and to see themselves from a different perspective rather than just what's their academic status, how well have they passed the exams, what's their progress in terms of that. It's a very different way of looking at things.
So tell me a little bit more then about your involvement with the Young People Index, and how did it get started? Because I know that you played a big role in that. So maybe tell us a little bit more about what inspired you to get involved and get that off the ground.
7 or 8 years ago, I decided that I was going to go off and do my own consultancy. I wanted to have the freedom. I came across the GC Index through a colleague, Perry Timms, and he mentioned he was going to the Game Changer Index accreditation. And I thought, what is the Game Changer Index? What is this GC Index? And I think at the time, Perry wasn't entirely sure either, and he'd gone through the accreditation and I was invited. And at that time I also invited a friend of mine who was a teacher, Christina, and she was interested. She had been a teacher for a while. She was interested in sort of, maybe different tools. She'd never done anything like it herself. So we got introduced. We went to London, we went through the accreditation. Like many people, including yourself, Simon, at that accreditation, when you're produced with your profile and you can see the data that kind of validates the feelings that you have about yourself, that you kind of know, but you can't make sense of. And I literally had that aha moment of, wow, this is why I'm here. And at the same time, Christina was saying as a teacher, oh, this would be really useful if I knew this about my students. I took it to my son's school down in Dorset in the south coast of the UK and introduced it to a new, actually 6 months into his term at this school. And he had some issues with his senior team, and we used the GC Index with the intention of sort of using it with the young people, but not knowing how. And it was amazing, so helpful for his team, him as a head teacher and his team, his senior management team. And then we basically started trialing it with young people as it was, the GC Index. Worked with teachers to sort of change, how we ask the questions, because obviously we had to make it more relevant to young people answering the questions. So we gave examples. And then before we knew it, we had a young person's version of the GC Index.
And it's making such a big impact. I know from the stories that are coming through of the different schools that are picking this up. What's the future for the Young People Index from your perspective?
Of course, I'm going to say endless possibilities. I feel that where it will end up is that schools, and we're starting to see this already, is that schools will become partners. They will embed it as part of their frameworks, as part of their career frameworks, and that every young person will have the opportunity at the right time, at the right age, which I believe is probably when they're taking their GCSEs in the UK, or, at a time, if they're overseas, it's probably around 14, 15 where they're making choices about the future. And then they're able to take it every year and see that sort of development piece until they leave school. And we're preparing them through that series of workshops that they feel very confident about articulating who they are, where their strengths are, and where they can have the biggest impact. So I think whole schools embedding it is where it will be.
And what about Helen Rivero? What's next for you?
Obviously, getting the Young People Index off the ground in those initial few years was super exciting, and endless obsession really with getting it to where it is. And I think now things have settled in a way, because what I get involved with now is much more of the accreditation process. So taking other people that are equally as passionate about helping the younger generation. And I take them through the process of getting them trained to use the Young People Index in schools, or as part of their business consultancy, or in part of charities. There's a multitude of people coming through. And actually, what I realize is that I'm able to discuss new ideas and possibilities with them, which really kind of taps into, not having to put a lid on sort of my creativity and endless of opportunities. I'm able to do it with them through a collaboration. And so that's where I guess all of that really is where I'm at the moment. And that is it's such a great feeling, because it's not just me that had that feeling of wanting to do something for young people. We're having so many different individuals coming through the accreditation process that want to make a real change.
Helen, no doubt you would have inspired some people with that explanation and that story that you've told there about the origin of the Young People Index. So if somebody listening wants to know more, where can they go?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is the website. So that is theyoungpeopleindex.com. It provides you with all of the information that you need.
Thank you, Helen. That was absolutely fantastic. And I loved hearing the story. And I also loved hearing that you started life as an air stewardess. I didn't know that bit. I thought I knew most things about you. So that's fantastic. Helen, the most important question of the whole podcast is, the final one, which is what track would you like to add to the Leading the Field playlist?
So this is quite a recent one. The artist is a relatively new female DJ, Jada J. She's got a new song out at the moment. And if you're going to ask me for the song, I'm not going to have the name of the song. She's absolutely brilliant. And I have it on in the car when it's, just needing an uplifting sort of song, really sort of joyous. And yeah, it's a brilliant one, but a new one, not an old classic. It's a new song. So that's probably my number one at the moment.
Keep in touch and let us know, come back and tell us next year maybe what's going on with the Young People Index and where you've got to and what's the next part of the story.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait. And yeah, who knows where we'll be in a year's time.
That was Helen Rivero, my absolutely wonderful guest here on Leading the Field. We'll be back next time. Thanks for listening. Leave some comments, share this podcast out with as many people as possible so we can get the message out there. And I'll see you again next week. Take care.